been in the lab most of my career, and for the last 20, I've only had 3 jobs in my life. I was 9 years with BC Cancer Research, 9 years in a contract lab, and 20 years in my own lab. And for the past 20, I've focused mostly on cannabis research. It's been quite a ride. I'm not a public speaker, as you probably gathered. I like being alone in the lab late at night with winking lights, but I've been kind of pushed into this role. I don't carry signs, I'm not an activist, but I've been pushed into this role because of my knowledge and interest as a pathologist in cannabis medicine. And I'm not sure what they mean by recreational cannabis. I don't get it. I mean, if a kid smokes a joint and he relaxes, that's therapeutic. I don't see it as being any other thing than medicinal. So I'm a natural medicine guy. I don't like synthetic anything really, not going into a biological system. I don't agree with it. The more you purify a compound, the more it will have side effects and become toxic. And I believe that cannabis has the power to revolutionize the medical industry, particularly around the pharmaceutical industry, that synthesizes the magic bullet compound that goes into a biological system and treats one symptom. In cannabis, we call it the entourage effect, where THC works with brothers and sisters like CBD, CBC, CBG. There's over 140 different cannabinoids. They all work together. And also we have terpenoids, which are another part of the medicine, and they're all contained in what we call the trichome on the plant, which is what the average pot smoker calls crystal. If you look at the cannabis flower under a microscope up to 30, 40 times, you'll see little blebs, which are exudate glands that have the cannabinoids and terpenoids inside them. What we do is tumble off these trichomes in like a clothes dryer, and we have a micron screen at the bottom, so we collect the trichomes on parchment paper, take out the trichomes and extract them. And if there are any extractors in this room, I'm not particularly big on CO2 extraction, although it is a very clean, recoverable, and utilizable solvent. But it does lose a number of the terpenoids that are important for the medicine, and also it's horribly expensive. It'll cost you $200,000 or $300,000 to set up a production CO2 extractor, more than that. And good old-fashioned ethanol. We used to distill our own ethanol in the lab from fruit alcohol. It's as efficient at extracting the cannabinoids and terpenoids as CO2. You'll get the same yield and the same ratio of the different terpenoids and cannabinoids using ethanol. So I recommend that use ethanol extraction. This is my opinion. And if you want to argue with me, then show me the data. I've been very excited about attending this meeting, and I've experienced a different attitude today. I go to many of these meetings in Canada and around the world. I spent the last 5 years, most of my time in Europe. The attitude here, I just came up with a term, is non-bureaucratic, and I explain myself on that there's a trend toward not lining up for 4 or 5 years, as people that I've been working with have done for a Health Canada license to become a licensed producer. It's tremendously bureaucratic, doesn't improve quality of product. I don't see it doing anything around that. The quality assurance program is really just common sense. And then you come to the analytical, which is what I do, which is quality control. And I know what good cannabis looks like, I know what it smells like, I know what it tastes like, and I know what the cannabinoid profiles look like. And in 2001, going back a bit in time here, we were under contract with the first Compassion Club in Vancouver to grow cannabis for them. I had a greenhouse on a farm out in Richmond. We had 7 strains from Holland, and we started growing in our greenhouse under contract with a dispensary. And they raided us, and it was very traumatic, and we lost all of our, they didn't take our equipment, they just took our plants and seeds. And what I took to court was my data on the QC, the quality control data that I've been doing with the cannabis I've been working with that we were supplying to the club. And the judge said that indeed I was doing valid science, but I was doing it on a plant that was illegal. And I got 6 months house arrest and a criminal record. I don't want to go to the States anyway, but they don't want my kind there anyhow. But I was convicted. That didn't stop me from doing the analytical work. But I see this as an approach that can be made with the First Nations people, that if you're going to go around Health Canada and set up a sovereign-like approach to this, you want to be putting out cannabis product to your people that is clean, with no contaminants, and they know how much THC, particularly THC, is there, and cannabidiol, CBD, so they can work out a dosing regimen, and they don't want to be taking contaminated pot if they're ill with autoimmune disease, anything like that. So I'm all about quality cannabis. Well, I don't like Health Canada much. I've had too many problems with them. So I'm glad that people are thinking of alternative approaches. And you guys having sovereign nations, you're perfect. And I think this is a great, wonderful opportunity. Anyway, I get to the point of why I'm standing here. I've been invited by Pat and Stu and Craig. I'm getting to know them. They brought me here because we met in Saskatoon months back, and we started talking about an idea. I kind of mentioned one word at this conference that drew a lot of attention: methadone. And methadone was a harm reduction method put out by the federal government years ago to reduce heroin consumption. And it hasn't worked because methadone is highly addictive and it's deadly. It's involved in at least 1/3 of the opiate deaths that we see today. In 2013, at a dispensary here in Chinatown on Main and Hastings, we call the War Zone, we did a short study on methadone addicts using cannabis as a harm reduction tool. We put up a notice in the dispensary: anybody wanting to get off methadone, addicted, come and see us, we're doing a study. We had 20 within 2 days. We called methadone liquid handcuffs because they had to come to the methadone clinic every day to pick up their methadone, so it wasn't too difficult for them to come to the dispensary and pick up their standardized canna caps, as we call them. Each one of these canna caps had 25 milligrams of activated THC in it. So depending on the person, we give 3 to 5, so sometimes 10 caps per day. They would come in, meet the assistant in the dispensary, fill out a questionnaire on their pain, withdrawal symptoms and so on. They would do that every day for 3 months. And we got 20 of them through it, and we saw a significant reduction in opiate consumption following their prescription records for methadone. So we got 2 of them off completely. What was really interesting about this study we found that the people that interacted most with the dispensary employee had the most success. So the ones that had the interaction, the human interaction, were the most successful. So this was done as a feasibility observational study. We're planning on doing with the Best Buds dispensary in Regina a very similar sort of study, but we'll expand it out. Getting the first 50% of methadone reduction was the easy part. The hard part was the second 50% and getting them to stay off. We're going to write a study proposal to the federal, to the provincial governments, anybody that will give us funding to fund this study. And as I've been telling the LPs that I've worked with 4 or 5 over the years, trying to get their licensing for health through Health Canada, I've told them all, cannabis is a huge, huge topic. You can do many, it's a very useful plant. But I told them all, find yourself a niche, bury yourself in it, become the best at it, whether it's doggy treats or sports medicine. Find a niche, brand around it, create products around it, and stay there, be the best at it. What I would like to recommend, my opinion only, to Indigenous people is that you do much the same. You take a harm reduction stance. Opiate addiction is all about pain, using maybe a different strain or whatever concoction we come up with. This will all be part of the study. And then you brand and create products around pain relief and sell them to the world. Also, the model that we create on harm reduction, withdrawal. I was looking for a term to express bringing the addict back into the community. I came up with bonding. They need bonding with the community again, or something tangible that'll make their life worthwhile. A job or whatever, community work. But that can all be part of the study too. And I would like very much to get a lot of money out of the federal government to fund this study. I'm not a businessman or a money guy, but there's people in this room that can help me do that. So what I plan is just to design, supervise the study, and we want to train Indigenous people in addictions medicine and the protocols to help people get off opiates. It will be appealing to the public, it'll be appealing to the granting agencies, and it'll save lives. I have a handout here which is most of what I wanted to say and probably forgot, because I often use visuals and I don't have great short-term memory for some reason.
You also don't have PTSD, right?
I cured that. They're right there, so it'll give you an outline of what I've been trying to say. Thank you very much. It's been an honor, really. Thank you.